how do we get to our deep structure, and how do we try to test what is common or generalizable here across all these surface features? One step is that we need to define our deep structure. So what is the core that you're interested in? So if you really are interested in medical interventions and vaccination from diseases, that's totally fine, just to be clear. I mean, you can do studies on that. But if you're trying to get a risk aversion or something like that, then you want to generalize beyond just vignettes with that particular issue. If you are interested in risky decisions, you want to define that risk-reward ratio and then identify the many ways that the risk decisions could arise. So whether it's medical, but also the terrorism example, but you could also do driving versus walking, or biking, or riding on a scooter, or whatever your transportation choices, the train, some people take the train. I often study social groups, so this is one that I think about a lot. When we have a finding with something that predicts attitudes towards a social group, does that work for all social groups? Or is it just the social group I happen to pick? Now sometimes I'm picking that social group for a reason, like I'm interested in their place in society or social issues around that group. But other times I'm just interested in how do groups work. And then we need to think about what do we mean by social groups and identifying the social groups that are important in your context or in your country. I often say political issues too. Same kind of issue, like we can have issues towards increases on taxes. Okay, that's one issue, but they're the same kind of things and the same kind of psychological processes that predict people's attitudes on increases in taxes. Are those the same or different from other political issues, like going to war or deciding how religious freedom ought to work? Or if you study faces and face perception, thinking about what is the population of faces that you're interested in. Are you interested in all possible faces from all over the world? Great, but then you need to think about how to get a sample of faces that match them. Are you interested in faces from East Asia? Great, but then you got to get the sample of faces that match that. And so you need to define this population and then identify a way of getting a good sample of stimuli from that population. And that's really the key across all of these things, is you define your deep structure, which sometimes is the population you care about, sometimes it's about the risk reward you care about, and then figuring out all the different ways that this could manifest and trying to capture a good sample of that. So my next example is one that's been used actually a lot in the literature, and I've used it in my own work. There is this effect called the party queue effect in political science and political psychology. The party queue effect is that people are more supportive of political issues when the issue is supported by their preferred party, and less supportive when the issue is supported by their least preferred party. So you might have an experiment with 3 conditions. In the neutral condition, you ask people, do you support more renewable energy? In the in-party queue condition, you might receive something like this. And the out-party queue, same kind of idea, but leaders for the out-group political party support more renewable energy, and you support more renewable energy. And so political scientists think this is an interesting effect because it suggests that people are kind of following what their political leaders say when it comes to deciding what to support. And it also kind of gives some insight into how people are forming their attitudes. And the question is then, is this just about renewable energy? Maybe climate and energy policies are hard for people to understand, so who do they find instead? So we want to generalize across multiple issues. So how can we do that? So what we've done in our studies with this is we went to this website called isidewith.com. And isidewith.com is actually developed for choosing candidates in elections in the US. So what they have you do, this kind of thing exists in other countries too. I'm not sure if it exists in Indonesia. But what you do is you go to this website and it asks you a bunch of policy type questions, like do you support, I don't know, whatever, just tons, like different kinds of tax policies, social issues, immigration issues, all sorts of stuff, education. And then it tells you which candidate is closest to your opinions. And so we found all of the issues with data for Trump and Biden, who are the party leaders at the time of our study. And we found all the issues where they disagreed with each other, because there's some where they actually agree with each other, which is surprising if you pay attention to American politics, but they do agree on some things. The disagree part, though, is just because for our study we needed them to disagree with stuff. And this left us with about 60 or so issues, which is way more than what we could handle in our study. And so then we did a random sample of issues from there. So what we tried to do with this then is to have this representative sample of issues that are important in the US. That was our goal. So, on the one hand, saying, okay, we've got to think about what's like the deep structure of our studies, and then develop stimuli that holds the deep structure constant while kind of varying a bunch of surface features or incidental features around it, so that we can know how our findings generalize across a bunch of different types of stimuli. That's easy to say, but then you get just different kinds of data than you might otherwise get.